Okay. Hi again, everyone. Welcome to It's Not Rocket Science, 5 questions over coffee. I'm here today with Craig Paxson. Craig is the creator of the Visionary Results System, which is a 3-step method that helps business owners turn their vision into predictable, scalable results. I like the sound of this, Craig. I think this is something that is much needed for the world. Business owners don't know how to turn their vision into something which is deliverable, let alone scalable. So I think this is going to be a great conversation. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Stuart. I'm happy to be here. It's going to be fun.
So Craig, let's start by sort of understanding who that ideal client is, that person that really needs the scalable results that you deliver.
Yeah. So I work with business owners and executives, usually between businesses between 1 and 15 million, who are tired of chasing their business. So what do I mean by chasing their business? So, something happens in the business. Somebody didn't do what they were supposed to do. And so they go chase down that person to make sure that they actually do it. A client leaves or threatens to leave, and they go chase that client. They need to get more revenue, and so they go out chasing new clients or chasing different places to get revenue. The market changes for some reason, COVID happens, or a new competitor comes in, and they end up chasing. All they're doing is chasing. So if you're a business owner and you are tired of chasing your business, then the system can help.
Craig, I love the sound of this. I think this is a brilliant message. So tell us about those common mistakes people try to make when they're trying to solve that problem without any help.
Yeah. One of the first ones is that a lot of business owners, they don't really understand the market. They don't understand what the market needs, what the market wants. The things that are coming down the road that are going to impact the market, right? Whether that is regulatory changes or technological changes or things like the pandemic. And so they don't really understand the market. So the position that they do, what makes them different than the other 1,000 people who do what they do, they don't really have a good way to do that. And so the way they sell is they chase those clients. And usually the business owner is the person who is selling, and it's all about personal relationships. And that goes only so far, right? If you're not that different than everybody else, then you end up competing on 2 things. One of them is the fact that you can play golf with somebody or take them out for drinks, or the fact that your price is lower, and nobody wants to live there, right? So that's one of the common mistakes that people make. The other mistake that they have is they don't really have something that's executable. So their strategy, and I put that in quotes, their strategy isn't really a strategy because it's not grounded in the market like we just talked about, but also it's not really able to be executed on a day-to-day basis. What they do on a day-to-day basis does not make their company different. It does not make their company better. It does not make their company easier to run. And so that's when they end up chasing. They're chasing the market. They're chasing the portions of the company that aren't performing well. And then they're trying to figure out why, when person X did this, did it not impact our profitability or our customer satisfaction, or it didn't resolve this customer complaint. It's because they don't understand the market, and they haven't put in systems to make sure they're delivering what the market wants.
It's a common problem, Craig. It's something that we all see, I guess, as coaches and consultants all day, is the number of people that don't think through the end-to-end impact of something they do, and you end up in a situation where somebody turns around and says, I never expected that unintended consequence that always sort of crops up, and you sit there and go, I think if you hadn't thought about it for 5 minutes, but you haven't had the time to think, have you? You've been busy, not spending time thinking.
Yes, busy chasing. And I think for a lot of not just business owners, but us as people, we want to start acting immediately, right? We want to go do.
Yes.
So, even if an organization is has the wherewithal to say we're going to have a strategic planning retreat, right? Well, where do they first start? They first start talking about is, what are the projects that we're going to do this year, right? And so now they're just adding on to-dos. So they've got what they normally do as a business. Now they're adding on all this, what they call strategy, these extra projects and to-dos, which usually don't get done, or they get done haphazardly. Or when they do get done, they didn't really affect the market the way they're positioned in the market. They didn't affect how they execute, how they deliver stuff to the market, because they weren't rooted in the market. They weren't rooted in what customers want, what customers need. So we always want to go first to this, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And so what I've developed that I think really helps is what I call the strategic capabilities matrix. And so think of a matrix. It's a 4x5 matrix. There's 4 columns. Every business, from Amazon or General Electric down to the smallest mom and pop bakery, has 4 main functions. These functions are, they need to sell their product or service. They need to deliver that product or service. They need to collect the money that's owed to them for that delivery. And then they need to govern the organization. They need to file their taxes. They need to hire people. They need to train people, right? So every business has those 4 functions. A lot of times we think about, what the functions of a business are: sales, IT, finance, operations, right? But all of those things really just come down to those 4 basic pillars, those 4 functions: sell, deliver, collect, and govern. We don't sell it, we don't have any revenue. We don't deliver it, customers aren't going to pay us, or we're not going to get repeat customers. We're not going to get new customers. We don't collect the money that's owed to us somehow, whether that is we're collecting on the front end through credit card payments, or we're sending out an invoice afterwards. Then we're not going to have any cash. We're going to go out of business. And if we don't file our taxes, if we don't hire people the proper way, those kinds of things, we're not going to have an organization that can exist. So those are the four columns in the matrix, the strategic capabilities matrix. There's 5 rows now in the strategic capabilities matrix. The first one is key processes. What are the key processes that we need to do in each of those 4 different functions? Mm-hmm. What are the key processes to sell, deliver, collect, and govern? So that's the first thing. What are the key processes that we need to do? The second one is what are the organizational policies that we need to have in place, again, to sell, deliver, collect, and govern the organization, right? Policies are the most easily changed, but also probably the most powerful things that we can have. They're rules that govern the organization. Think about how different an organization is if the salespeople are 100% commission versus 0% commission, no commission, right? And that's just the organizational policy, right? The third row in this matrix is skills and abilities. What are the skills and abilities that are needed, again, for each of the 4 functions: sell, deliver, collect, and govern, right? This is all about the people. Then finally, the next row is the last row. I forgot one, but anyway, tools and resources. Give us all 5. This is brilliant stuff, Craig. Tools and resources.
Good one.
Right. So, what are the tools and resources? That might be websites or equipment, delivery trucks, a certain software package, whatever it is. Again, what are the tools and resources that we need? And then the last one is organizational structure.
Okay.
What does the organizational structure, what should it look like, again, in order to sell, deliver, collect, and govern, right? So organizational structure can be and includes who reports to who, what the typical org chart looks like, but it can also be and needs to be thought about in how does information flow between different people, and how are decisions made? Who can make what kinds of decisions, right? So that's all part of organizational structure. Normally we think of structure as just as the org chart, but we also need to think about, for this particular process of selling, the processes of selling, let's say, how does information about that sales process need to flow through the organization, and who makes the decisions for that sales process at what time, right? So that's all part of organizational structure.
This is really interesting stuff, Craig, because I spend a lot of my time as a coach consultant talking to business owners who are trying to get their business ready for sale, ready to exit.
Right.
Most business owners will naturally think that they can easily hand this over to somebody. Maybe it's somebody that they've already worked with, like a supplier or a manufacturer of their product, or somebody they know, maybe a family member. A lot of them will also turn around and say, well, I'll get 3 or 4 times the order book for this business. Yet you can get 6 or 7 times if you've got the sort of structure that you've talked about there,
Absolutely.
where key things have been identified, because somebody will pay for the value of being able to pick up a simple document and go, I understand how this business works, and I can make it better, or I can integrate it better. And it's such a shame that too many business owners are not taking the opportunity when they're doing these sort of reviews to actually put in place the sort of strategic review that you're talking about, where people understand how the business works, so they can improve it, or indeed so they can sell it.
Yes, absolutely. And it makes the business easier to run, right? If we go through this process of determining the capabilities that are required, this whole capabilities matrix, the key processes that we need are the processes that we do every day in the business, right? So strategy isn't something piled on top of what we do. Strategy is what we do.
Yes.
Right. And then the strategic projects that we want to put in place, strategic initiatives, are really projects to either create or improve these capabilities. Right? Whether that's a key process that isn't doing exactly what it needs to do, maybe it's too expensive, doesn't have high enough quality. Whether that is we lack a resource, we lack in the way we're going to approach the market, we know that we need to have a different way of interacting with the clients when we deliver our service. And so now we want a tool or resource on the delivery column, the delivery function. We want a tool or resource of a new method of interacting with our clients. And so now that's a project to put that in place. So we can tie in the strategy with our day-to-day stuff and the projects, our strategic projects, to make our business better.
And how many people, when it came to the recent pandemic, that didn't have an online presence that needed one, and had no idea how important that was, without something like this to really guide them and say, your website isn't functioning because that's become your primary sales source, and possibly even your primary method of collecting the money.
Absolutely.
There are too many out there that act as a sales brochure, but they don't collect money. And in the online world, suddenly that's a missing that you hadn't even realized was going to be there. A simple matrix gives you that clear understanding. We need to improve the way we collect money on our website.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's brilliant. Yes. Now, I suspect, Craig, from what you've been saying, your valuable free resource is going to be something along the lines of a document that we can download to have a look at some of this stuff.
That's correct. Yes. So if my valuable free resource is at visionaryresults.com /free stuff, all one word, FREESTUFF. And there's lots of resources to download there. One of them is the strategic capabilities matrix. So it's a PDF. It has some instructions on it. And then it has an example matrix that you can use to fill out. And then to go along with that, there's also a document to do quarterly planning to basically turn that capabilities matrix into something that you can utilize day to day on what you actually do in your business. So there's a second download for that. But yeah, the strategic capabilities matrix, go download it at visionaryresults.com /free stuff.
I'll make sure that link is in the notes, in the comments below, because I think that's something that people are going to be really interested in. So, Craig, this is fascinating stuff. Is there a particular concept book, program, or talk that led you to this thinking?
There's not really one. I'm extremely well read. I've read hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of books. When it comes to strategy, a lot of people think it can be very academic, theoretical. One of the leaders in strategy is Michael Porter. And if you look at some of the Michael Porter books, they're very thick, they're very academic. He's a professor at Harvard. But one of the books that I learned a lot from about Michael Porter is called Understanding Michael Porter by Joan Magretta. And it really breaks down strategy, the way Michael Porter has strategy, into something that's a lot simpler to digest, understand, and act upon. So that book, and then Blue Ocean Strategy. Those two things will teach you more about strategy and how to really understand how you compete in the market. So I really highly recommend those two particular books.
Love Blue Ocean Strategy. Absolutely love it. Okay, so what's the one question that I should have asked you that I haven't, and what's the answer?
Oh, do you want the answer too? Oh, so one question I think is, what are the misconceptions about strategy? And so, we touched on this a little bit earlier by talking about how, people layer strategy on top. And people think that strategy, and they label things strategy because they're big picture, they're high level, they're long-term, so therefore they're strategy. Well, just because something takes a long time to accomplish doesn't mean it's strategic. Just because something seems high level doesn't mean it's strategic. So my definition of strategy is this, and I think this is putting this into people's brains and having them repeat this over and over and over will help them really understand what strategy is and make it part of their daily business life. Strategy is simply the capabilities required to compete in the market and obtain the desired organizational results. That's it. That's what strategy is. Strategy is not about doing. Strategy is simply that definition. What are the capabilities that we need as an organization to compete in the market and obtain the results that we want? Once we know those capabilities inside the strategic capabilities matrix, now we can start to go execute. Now we can go make those capabilities a reality. That's execution. Execution is making the capabilities a reality. Strategy is determining what the capabilities are.
Brilliant definition. Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, Craig, this has been a fascinating discussion. Really appreciate your time. I would encourage pretty much everybody listening at the moment to get and have a look at that those documents that you've described on your recs. Say again for us. It's Visionary Results /free stuff.
Visionaryresults.com/free stuff.
Free stuff. Brilliant stuff. Look, Craig, I hope everybody goes and gets it, because I think it's a really important topic. I think it's absolutely fantastic the way you've just described it so clearly. Just answers so many problems. I love what you're doing. Thank you so much for being on. If you'd like to keep up with what we're doing here, people, if you go to tca.fyi/subscribe, you'll get notifications of great interviews like I'm doing with Craig. You can also read when people like Craig come on and get some of the stuff that he's talking about. So I'd encourage you to go to tca.fyi/subscribe, get on the newsletter mailing list so that you can actually see more and more of this stuff. Craig, it's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate the time you spent with us. I sincerely hope that we can all get onto that website and download those free resources that you've mentioned. And thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Stuart. It was a lot of fun.